It's time for Coffee Friday with your mortgage man, Eric. Probably should be drinking it this way. Anywho, I'm inside today because it's freezing cold in Phoenix, Arizona at 54 degrees. It's our winter time. Plus it's the holidays. Worked a half day at the office. I'm now working from the home office for the afternoon on a Friday. So today we're going to keep it a little easier, a little shorter. We're going to talk about the difference between appraisals and home inspections. And then we're also going to talk about how the choice of who you use for home ownership can delay your closing. So let's get into the first topic, the difference between an appraisal and a home inspection. The appraisal is ordered by the lender, kind of, okay? An appraisal, sometimes referred to as an appraisal report, an appraisal inspection, and I wish they would never call it an appraisal inspection because that's what confuses the consumer. Wait, appraisal inspection, home inspection, do they not mean the same thing? They are the same thing. Why are you charging me twice, right? Let's just call it an appraisal or an appraisal report, one or the other. The lender will order the appraisal. It has to be done so through a third party, okay? Because of HVCC, a regulation that was passed back in 0809, by Andrew Cuomo, at the hands of Andrew Cuomo, who was the governor of New York at that time, and that was a part of the cleaning up of the industry, because one of the reasons that everything melted down back in the day is because lenders were in the pockets of appraisers and they were allowed to communicate directly with one another, and they would coerce the appraisers and say, look, if you don't appraise this home at $300,000, then I'll never use your services again, right? That was wrong. They cleaned it up. But as a result of this, right, the pendulum kind of swung way far in the other direction, right? It went from one extreme to the other. So part of HVCC, the regulation, what it did is it created a third party, a clearinghouse or an appraisal management company, a third party that the lender has to communicate to the third party, the clearinghouse, and make the order. So the lender places the order with the clearinghouse, appraisal management company. Appraisal management company then takes the order and randomly chooses different appraisers to appraise the property. And now that keeps it cleaner, but what it has done is increased the cost of appraisals from about $300 to about $500 in the last 9 years. There's where the cost went. So to clean up the industry, there's always a cost, and the cost always gets pushed onto the consumers, right? It is what it is, unfortunately. So the third party, right, the appraisal management company has to make their buck, and they do. They make $75 to $200 per transaction. So back to the appraisal. The appraisal is done as a form of appraising, given an opinion of value of the collateral that the property is being lent on, right? So we have to determine what the value of the collateral is so we can lend you money. Is it worth it to lend you $300,000 or is it not? I mean, what's the value of your collateral, which is the property? Not to get that confused with a home inspection. Now, home inspection, do you even need a home inspection? There are certain people out there that feel as if they don't. Few, but some. Home inspection is actually not mandatory. It's up to the consumer if they'd like to have one or not. Of course, we all recommend that you do. It's in the realtor's paperwork. It's everywhere that you can find and read about online. We recommend you get a home inspection. Even if your Uncle Joe was a contractor 50 years ago, right? Get yourself a home inspection. What does a home inspection cost? It's, an appraisal, by the way, costs roughly about $475 to $500 nowadays. Home inspection is going to run you maybe $325 on the low end to $425 on the high end, somewhere in there. And your realtor is the one that usually sets that up or recommends or refers you to a home inspector. They'll usually set it up for you, set the appointment for you. They're going to come out, they're going to actually inspect the home for deficiencies, things that are wrong, from a small little wall plate that's loose, to a garage door not working, and to an air conditioning not working, to your hot water heater that's ready to burst. So you need that. So if there are things that are wrong of great capacity, it gives you, the buyer, to negotiate with the seller to fix those items prior to closing on your home loan, or you'll renege the contract, and you have every right to do so. It's part of the terms of the contract in your inspection period. You have 10 days in a resale purchase contract in the state of Arizona to get yourself a home inspection and come back to the seller with what is called a buyer inspection report, a BINSR for short, and hit them with a BINSR. That's what we call hitting them with a BINSR on with the items that we want them to correct. That's natural. So there's your difference between an appraisal and a home inspection. They're not the same thing. You're not being double charged. Appraisal is an opinion of value on the collateral that is being done with an appraisal management company. So if you ever wondered, that appraiser that you sent out, nope, we don't send appraisers out. Lenders do not send appraisers out. Appraisers do not work for lenders. There is no cahoots. That we don't have any hearsay or empowerment over them anymore. Those days are long gone by 9 years. So just to kind of differentiate, home inspection is going to tell you the deficiencies that are wrong with the home so you don't buy yourself a lemon. It's for your protection. It is optional. The appraisals are not. Okay, moving on to your homeowner's insurance choice. How can that delay my closing? How can that delay the processing of my loan? Here's how. If you choose a company that has their call center, a huge call center, whether it's here in the US or in overseas, the service is going to lack in the getting proof of insurance, what we call a binder, getting a binder for insurance. And sometimes that can take 2 to 3 days to acquire a binder. So in other words, what does that mean? We as the lender say, hey, okay, Geico or whomever it is, right? In these large call centers. We need evidence of insurance. You have to give us a documentation that says, now you are going to insure this home, and here's the insurance coverage, and here's the amount. And the document has to have the correct verbiage on it, the wording, the spelling's got to be intact. When you're dealing with your large call centers in huge corporate America, those things can take 2 to 3 days at times. Sometimes it's just because they don't respond. Other times is that they get it wrong 8 times until the 9th time they get it right. I kid you not. True stories. Talk to any processor at any mortgage company and they'll tell you some of the worst insurance companies to deal with on that end. Any processor at a lending company, right? They'll tell you some of the worst insurance companies you can possibly deal with. But it is what it is. Look, you as a consumer get to choose whomever you want to choose from. Just giving you some pointers on saving yourself $43 a year in the premium can cost you maybe a day, 2 days, 3 days in being able to close your home loan early. So just throwing it out there. Any agent that is local that you can talk to, right? You got an insurance agent. I can call John Smith over at American Family and they're going to help. Those companies will give us evidence of insurance within a few hours. So, I mean, you have to understand 2 to 3 hours versus 2 to 3 days is a huge gap, a lack of service to save yourself an itty bitty pittance. Now, what I can do is, as far as a tip on homeowners insurance. Now, I'm not a homeowners insurance agent and I'm not claiming to be. But one of the ways that the big companies get you, if you didn't know this, is that they will raise your insurance premiums 2 to 3% every year. Because they know you as a consumer, you're not going anywhere for a 2% raise. You're not going to go through the headache, the paperwork, changing it over, and shelling out more money before you get a return. Your check that it hasn't, they haven't used, a refund. There it is. You're not going to do that for 2 or 3%. But what happens over 10 years? Now we're talking 20 to 30% increase over 10 years, right? Now that is substantial. Now, where I'm going with this, typically an insurance broker is the way to go. An insurance broker has 20, 30 different insurance companies that they work with daily. So every time your insurance premium comes up for renewal, they will shop you out to all the different insurance companies that will come back with the cheapest quote. Now, you're wondering, yeah, but they're going to give me horrible coverage with a horrible company. No. Just because that insurance company isn't spending $70 million in ads for 12 seconds at the Super Bowl, during the Super Bowl, doesn't mean they're a bad company. It just, you got to understand the marketing brainwashing that we have as consumers. So it still is a worthwhile conversation, though, with your agent to make sure that you are properly covered. I'm not denying that fact. Sometimes you go with a cheaper company and you have horrible coverage. Like if you were to get into an accident and your liabilities and collision and all those things are down, personal property damage, is down at $50,000. Well, you hit a traffic light, that's going to be over $50,000, right? So you're going to be sued now. So I get all of that. Just throwing out a little bit of tip, a little bit of advice on shopping for your homeowner's insurance, for whatever it may help. So recap: difference between appraisals and home inspections, and how choosing the wrong insurance company can cost you 1, 2, 3 days in the processing of your loan. Look, we'll probably still close on time, I get that, but if we're looking to close early, right? If we got a 40-day close of escrow, Eric, can you get it done in 28 because we want to move in before Thanksgiving or whatever the case is? That could be an X factor. So anyhow, just keep that in mind. This is Coffee Friday with your mortgage man, Eric. I wish you guys a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.